Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. Pretty interesting comments coming out of the Fed as Jay Powell testifies before Congress. So they were making progress on inflation, and it was coming down more towards their sort of target levels. But it also made some interesting comments about leaving rates too high for too long and damaging the economy. So potentially is that setting up the market for a sort of September-October rate cut? A little bit of good news on the unemployment front as well. Non-farm payrolls came in at 206,000 versus 200,000, but the previous 2 months were revised down by about 111,000. Also as well, the unemployment rate nosed up slightly to 4.1%. So clearly the heat is coming out of the employment market, and that's sort of not sort of dampening down the economy. The economy is still running at a pretty reasonable rate, but certainly the pressure on the labour market is dissipating quite substantially. So a little change on the interest rates on the sort of terms there. 10-year is still running around 427, 2 years running around 463. Now expecting another read on the inflation data this week as well with CPI. That's expected to show core around 3.1%. So potentially interest rate sort of cuts back on the table. The S&P has just reached a further high for this year. It's 36 this year. Now, quite interesting on the sort of political scene. Obviously, Biden is still scrambling after a pretty shambolic debate versus Trump. But interestingly, Trump has been pretty quiet on the sort of campaign trail. Biden's had around sort of 11 or 12 sort of campaign rallies and sort of, getting out there and really sort of putting himself in front of the media and in front of the people. Although at present it's sort of split really whether the Democrats sort of still want him to run or not. He is adamant he's still running. Now Putin continues to sort of taunt the West. We've got the big NATO meeting presently in Washington, but Putin is currently hosting Modi. And all the time the Russia-Ukraine war drags on now, just over 850 days now. For a conflict that Putin thought would last a couple of weeks. Now oil's backed off just a little bit. It's back just slightly below 83 now. Now, no real surprise in the UK election, a massive win for Labour, over 160 seat majority, and that really potentially looks like a two-term government now for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. What was quite interesting was, though, the Reform Party, Nigel Farage's sort of, protest votes, if you like, only got 5 seats. But again, the UK economy looks in pretty reasonable shape, and potentially you could see a rate cut from the Bank of England in August. But more importantly, the markets seem to like the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves. Now in France, again, a pretty major protest vote against the hard right, with a sort of potential sort of hodgepodge coalition with the sort of centre and centre left, and then the extreme left coming out and not having an overall majority, but thwarting the far right Marine Le Pen's party from getting power. And interesting in Europe as well, natural gas prices are now lower than they were before Russia invaded Ukraine, which potentially maybe gives an insight on why the European Union has managed to get inflation down so quickly. Now, a bit of a mixed picture in Australia. The latest NAB business survey, that was showing some positive signs out there and was up slightly. But then Westpac's consumer confidence, that was down. Now, obviously, after that latest CPI print at 4%, there has been some talk potentially the Reserve Bank could be looking at increasing rates at its next meeting. Now, the Reserve Bank here in New Zealand left rates on hold at 5.5%. There was no surprise there. But, potentially the sort of commentary was slightly more dovish than expected, talking about getting inflation back to more sort of target levels and, potentially setting up the market for a November rate cut. Because certainly the New Zealand economy does need a little bit of a boost. It's really stagnating out there and, going backwards really. Interesting as well, the latest debt auction here in New Zealand, that was undersubscribed. They were trying to get 100 million away, only managed to get 94 million away. Migration figures as well continue to drop. Just under 83,000 versus 94 previous month. And well off the peak of 136,000 back in October 2023. So if you are looking for income options, go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.